daughter looked at Mizzou. Who's also going to look at Mizzou.
And then we're out.
So my husband.
Well, I think we're all pretty healthy.
When my husband isn't it?
I see.
He had a public.
You got a few garbage time minutes, yeah, Friday. Yeah.
And I end up going.
A lot of them fight it. My son's head.
Degree in
He's had a concussion this year.
I just.
It's Melissa. Do we know she's coming?
She's coming. Oh,
More business
I think I heard door.
area.
That's crazy, right? Like, I mean, it's just. People being in the right place.
Absolutely.
Back to my thing though, is I don't want to pay like crazy out of state tuition trying to figure it out. There's a chicken in the street?
No, there was a lady who wanted to play chicken.
Oh.
Okay.
You gotta use this thing, I guess?
That's why.
All right, I'll call to order the City of Indianola Council meeting for June 1st, 2026. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and running the meeting. Jake, will you go over the consent agenda items, please?
Public comment.
Oh, public comment. We do have public comment, and I have this little thing I need to read here first. This is time set aside for comments from the public on a relevant subject pertaining to council's actions scheduled for today. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. While officials will take comments into consideration, this time is not intended for discussion or dialogue, and speakers must direct remarks to the councils and not others in the audience. The use of obscene and vulgar language, hate speech, racial slurs, slanderous comments, and any other objectively disruptive conduct may be ruled out of order, and the speaker may be removed from the meeting. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comments based on the number of individuals signed up to speak. With that being said, does anyone have any public comments they'd like to step up and speak? Please state your name and your address, sir.
Anthony Alexander, 106 East Boston Avenue, apartment number 4. I received on my phone today, this concerns the HERDA bus transportation here in Indianola. They're going to reduce the days that they operate from Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to just Monday and Friday because of financial abilities. And in their message, they said that they weren't getting the proper funding from the local governments, Knoxville, Perry, and Indianola. And that's why they had to reduce the time that we can have the buses. I use the buses a lot to go to medical. I use them to go to Walmart. I take them to Des Moines for medical purposes. They are an important part of my being around. I'm 70 years old. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. And so this is important to me. I have found, from my comments on my post, that the city doesn't really help kick in for that, for whatever reason. But I'm just here to try to find more information on how I can help other people get information about what's going on and to see if there can be anything done to expand that window of opportunity to use HERDA. The more I understand, and from Mr. Armstrong and Ms. Stephanie Erickson, I'm getting more information about what's going on. You know, it might be a HERDA business model problem, or it may be a logistics problem. But I just wanted to let you know that there are individuals that really depend on that service. And for me, it's getting to the store and going to medical. It's not for just joyriding to go see friends. It's something that's very important with me. And I just wanted to let you know how I feel and let you know that if anybody sees my comments, Tony Alexander on the Indianola community page, I wasn't trying to be out of pocket. I wasn't vulgar. It was just a spur of the moment thing. And the more information I get, the better understanding I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, my name is Lois Tabor, 2510 West 10th Avenue, Indianola. And I'm just going to follow up on what Anthony was saying, because I work at Heel House, I volunteer there. And I know a lot of our people rely on the HERDA. And I've also heard that like parents that have autistic children or they go to preschool, they rely on the HERDA bus too. So if you can look into it and give us any more information that can keep HERDA, keeping these people going from A to B, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Wilson, 114 West Drive, Indianola. Just a follow-up to that, with HERDA, I would ask if we could have somebody ask where HERDA's collecting their data on how many riders, or where is the data coming from? I've been in conversations with HERDA over 8 years about serving our community. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are the largest social service community days in Warren County, which means the courts, Helping Hand, We Lift, whatever else. We also support HERDA. We have several clients that we have financial accounts for, and those are to get back and forth to work. We don't have public transportation, so when a car breaks down, the long-term result could be loss of employment, loss of income, which means evictions and spirals from there. So I guess and then also our families. We have several families in the school district that rely on HERDA to get their kids to school. So I guess my bigger question for HERDA is, where is the data coming from? We've been a community partner and yet have not been engaged in any communications with HERDA. And I don't know that they've done their due diligence in coming to the community partners as a whole to see how some of us can help fund HERDA, right? And so I think there's options in the community to help. I just, maybe an ask from you guys is are they willing to come to the table with some of the other nonprofits? And how can we make this work for the residents? Because it's not about HERDA, it's not about We Lift, it's not about anyone else, it's about our residents and taking care of them.
Thank you.
Pam Peterson at 2003 East First Avenue, Indianola. I have a son that depends on HERDA every day unless one of my daughters is available for him to go back and forth from work. He has had to cut his hours just because they had cut Tuesday. And it isn't fair to anybody, any of the special needs or any of that. I can't drive right now because I have epilepsy and I totaled 2 cars in the last year. So I depend on that also. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Holly Zychek, 2612 Lexington Drive in Norwalk. Thank you for allowing me to take a couple of minutes to just stop by and say hi and provide a little bit of information for you. But I'm a candidate for state senate for our district here 11. I'm very familiar with Indianola and Warren County. I've been serving the area for about 16 years now. I know most of the people in the area through my economic development roles. I'm currently the economic development director for the city of Norwalk, and I was the director of Warren County Economic Development for about 6 years prior to that while I lived here in Indianola. I spent a little bit of time at USDA Rural Development as well, helping small communities across the state, so very familiar with our area and just working with the public and the private sectors. But priorities for me, if I'm elected, local control, number one. I think we all understand kind of the issues that that's been causing over the last couple of years with some of the legislation like House File 718 and Senate File 2472, causing restrictions on our growth and our budgeting and being able to provide public services to our residents. So that's key. I think that our communities should be able to decide for ourselves how to run our communities. And I think the less state and federal government are involved in our local decisions every day, in our homes and our schools, the better, especially within our local businesses as well. Supporting our local businesses and proper growth through the free market, we need to really make sure that our businesses are successful. Their investments into our community provide tax base to pay for our public services and infrastructure, provide the jobs to our residents, goods and services that we need to be buying locally instead of other cities or online. Water quality and cancer rates in Iowa, very important to me. It's not just a popular talking point. It's affected my family pretty horribly in many ways, and I know many other Iowans as well. So the good thing about this subject, these two subjects right now, there's a lot of attention at the state level, so I don't think that they'll be swept under the rug this year. Growing the economy and our local communities, just having the ability to succeed. So over the last 8 years, I've had the honor of helping our area add $200 million in new commercial and industrial values, 100 new brick and mortar businesses, and over 800 new full-time jobs to the market. This helped some of our cities, our schools, and our county lower their tax levies annually while still being able to provide new public services. So this is also the way to keep our young adults in Iowa. They have to have opportunities to thrive and prosper here. So the reason why I believe I'm the best candidate to represent our district in the Senate is because I don't really want to be a politician. Politics is a little bit, it gets icky. We'll just say that. But I want to be a public servant, and I've been a public servant for almost 20 years, excuse me. I'm accessible, and I'm willing to not only hear people's concerns, but to act on them. And I have been doing that throughout my career. My experience and background on hands-on working with the public and the private sectors, I believe gives me a unique perspective and something that the legislature really needs right now. I understand how taxes actually work at the local level, the complexities of TIF, city and county budgets, the mountain of challenges that our small businesses face, and how to improve our economy through proper growth and job creation. So the primary election, as you well know, is tomorrow, June 2nd, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is an important election because we're not only deciding the candidates for our district, but also our gubernatorial candidates that will move on to the general election in November. So I hope that I've been able to earn your trust through my work around the district and the county over the last 16 years, and hopefully I can earn your vote as well. But I am open at any time for a phone call, a meeting. Would love to talk, answer more questions. And thank you for the time, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak at public comment? Not seeing any. Jake, will you then go through the consent agenda items, please?
Yeah, starting at item D, we have a setting the date for a future public hearing. We would be setting by resolution a date for the June 15th, 2026 meeting at 6 p.m. To take action on the capital improvement plan. The CIP was presented at the May 11th study session. This item sets that resolution on the CIP, and that council adopt the plan after the hearing. Approval of applications, we have consideration of issuance of a new liquor license for Des Moines Metro Opera doing business at the As Blank and Performing Arts Center. It's an 8 months permit for DMMO. Staff has reviewed the application as well as inspected the premises. Consideration of approval of a liquor license renewal for Casey's number 1908 located at 507 South Jefferson Way. The current permit expires on June 15th.
Did you get my comment?
Staff has reviewed the application and inspected the premises. Consideration of approval of liquor license renewal for Casey's 1623 located at 7 North Jefferson Way. Contingent upon staff approval. The current permit expires on June 14th, and staff has reviewed that application at this point and inspected the premises. And then consideration of the approval of the liquor license amendment for Sodexo. This would be for updated owners on their liquor license. Item F, third consideration and adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 99 sewer service charges. This would account for the 2.8% inflationary increase that's been discussed at the previous two meetings. Item G, second consideration of an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Indianola, Iowa for change of zoning district boundaries from the A1 agricultural / open space district to the R1 single family residential detached zoning district, well-built homes property. This would accommodate for the construction of a single family dwelling at South K Street and West 12th Avenue. Item H, first consideration of an ordinance amendment to Chapter 122, peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. Council reviewed the proposed changes at the May 18th, 2026 meeting and directed staff to proceed with adoption of the ordinance amendments. Item I, resolution authorizing agreement between Vector Solutions and the Indianola Fire Department. This is an annual renewal of Vector Solutions for the continued use of the fire department's learning management system. The annual cost is about $4,800 and is included in the FY27 budget. Item J, resolution approving a traffic impact study policy. Council reviewed the proposed policy at the May 18th, 2026 meeting and directed staff to proceed with adoption. Item K is a resolution in support of a workforce housing tax credit benefit application to be submitted to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by Hubble Homes for a housing project located near southeast corner of Iowa Avenue and North 15th Street North 15th Street. Hubble Homes will be submitting an application for workforce housing tax credits for a 50-unit townhome located near the corner of East Iowa Avenue and North 15th Street. City staff confirmed with our financial advisor that the city's property tax abatement program satisfies the local match requirement. A similar process was used for the schoolyard townhomes development. This project would be valued at an estimated $9 million. And item L is resolution approving salaries for part-time staff and increases per collective bargaining agreements.
Thank you, Jake. Are there any council members that have an agenda item they would like to pull?
Kay.
Okay, and with that being said, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda items minus F and K?
So So moved.
Second.
Jackie, you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Solms.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Reed.
All right, so consent agenda item F. Steve, what would you like to talk about on that one?
Just keeping my vote consistent to what I did on the second reading. So I don't really have anything else to say.
Any other comments on consent agenda item F?
Last time I pulled it to just talk about the fund balances and where we were with reserves and the fund balances. And I guess I want to point out that when we increased the fees last year, we increased them above and beyond what Michael Maloney had recommended against what he had suggested, doing so so that we would not need to increase them this year. But yet, here we are, increasing them by 2.8%, which is essentially what we increased them above what we increased last year. So it just seems like we're not able to keep our expenses in check, or we don't have a good understanding maybe of still what it takes. And I understand the plant is new and we're still getting a handle on chemicals and such to run the operation. But I'm just curious why we're not keeping up.
Yeah, and that was discussed in depth, I would say a little bit more at the last meeting. We lost a large user, so
Yeah,
that while the rates are
understand.
increasing, our revenues are actually decreasing. So we're actually not meeting the projections that we were expected to meet this year, and even with the increase and holding our projections flat year over year, we're projecting flat revenue, and we're not sure if we'll meet that. So we're not actually seeing our expenditures increase. We're seeing them stay consistent. We're not seeing our revenues increase with the rate increases based on usage and users.
Sorry, explain that again. So it's not based on usage users per se, because if we lost that big contact, right, then we would obviously be using less. So I guess I'm trying to understand the balance there of how that works.
Costs go down?
Because we generate revenue based on usage. So the plant has a capacity to it. The plant doesn't necessarily cost more to run if you use more or less water per se, maybe on utilities. But your fixed costs, like your staffing costs, your capital needs, all of those are not going to be impacted by the plant working a little more or less hard. Still based on usage. So when we lose a big user, even though we're increasing rates, we're not seeing the revenues come in at a flat level.
I understand the staffing part of it, for sure, but I'm more looking at like all the chemical costs and the other soft costs that we have to maintain the plant.
Yeah, and those are going to be much less of a cost than the staff and the capital needs and the ongoing operation.
So with that increase, this is because I'm new maybe, but with that increase last year, we increased it more than what was recommended, which should have gave us a little wiggle room, right? Or did that not help since it was such a large user?
Yes, I don't know what was recommended if we actually increased it more than that, so I think we're going.
I don't remember all the details. I know that there was talk about the state capping what we could increase things, and so we did do a little bit higher, but I don't remember all the details. I'd have to go pull everything.
And ultimately, we didn't meet the revenue projections with the increase. We're still bringing in less money. And I think the other piece of it is Jackie had mentioned last meeting, we're running a 14% fund balance, which is not adequate if we were to experience an emergency. So part of the increase is also to help build our fund balance so that we have sufficient operating reserves. And another, I guess, second or third piece of that is we are having our consultant put together a comprehensive study to analyze the plant, both from an operational and capital perspective, and look at what our maintenance needs are, both with the plant, but primarily the collection system, making sure that we're doing manhole rebuilds, reconstructing lines, as well as lining the lines as well that are in need of repair. So that's another thing we'll bring forward to council to make sure that and then back that into a rate analysis to make sure our rates are sufficient to cover all those operating expenses too, and capital expenses.
Are you good, Melissa?
So this rate increases to build the reserve back to 25%?
I don't believe the reserve was ever at 25%, so we've never achieved a reserve target, and that's something that came to light over the last year. So portion of this is to help build our reserve so that we have a sufficient operating reserve in place.
For transparency, sorry, what like an emergency example, like that we're saying we need to make sure we're covered for, just so it's.
Catastrophic plant failure, catastrophic collection system failures, catastrophic vehicle failures. So could be a jet truck vac going down, could be some significant event out of the plant that causes significant damage, or if we've got major sanitary sewer failures.
Or natural disaster.
Or natural disaster.
So we are looking at you said with those studies, that'll look at our rates, since we are some of the highest in the state, that'll be.
It'll analyze our rate as well. And then I think, again, not to go off topic, but with the debt service for the plan, $1 million of that does come from loss that doesn't even get factored into the sanitary sewer rate.
When is that study being done?
We're gonna get the proposal. It's a study we plan to conduct in this current fiscal year. So just waiting on the proposal from HR Green. They should have that to us in the next couple of weeks here, and then something we'd look to do in FY27.
Is everybody good on consent agenda item F? Can I get a motion to approve item F?
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, would call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Armstrong?
No.
Dalby?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Sones?
No.
The item passes 4-2. I'm sorry, who pulled item K? Was it Tiffany? Was that you or
Yeah, that
Melissa?
was me.
All right.
Sorry, I'm making a note for this one. Sorry. I don't know that I mean, I just wanted to pull it so there was some discussion around it. I don't know that it'll change my view on it, but I at least wanted to bring it up because there was some concerns within community members and also people that this would impact on a daily. So with this being, the location of it being where it would be the Emerson School District, or those that may not be as in tune with it, Emerson has been maxed out for quite some time. And so it was a concern for them to be able to ensure that this isn't going to impact them in a way that's detrimental to the school, because that would increase their numbers potentially within that school. So I just wanted to bring it up so that for transparency, that we are aware of it and that we can have discussions going forward to ensure that the school and the city are kind of on the page of working together to ensure that we can prepare for these things, so that we're not in the situation of some neighboring communities where you have one big school that can handle all kinds and other schools that can't handle the numbers. So just wanted to bring it up so that we put it on the radar of making sure that we all stay in touch with each other. And even if we can have like conversations, maybe, I tried to go back in the notes, but I don't know the last time we had like conversation within city council and maybe school board that we team up that way. We're all elected officials, right? So if we can have those conversations to ensure that smooth growth happens and things that our decisions may impact them, that we all have that in mind with each other. So I just wanted to bring it up that way.
I think it would be a great idea to get discussions. I think the last time we had a meeting with the school board was October of '24.
Yeah. So more just, I wanted to bring that up so that we had it on radar of maybe this could lead to more conversations so we can all kind of partner together. We're all under the same umbrella of the city, right? So. That's the only reason I pulled it.
Yep, I appreciate that, and I think Jake and Bryce maybe talked to Tara later, or earlier today, and had a similar conversation possibly about ways that we can partner as well. With that being said, does anyone else have anything? they
Yeah,
would
I
like to
just
talk
would
about?
add, like, I do think it's great to work with the school board. I think, appreciate Sue Wilson being here tonight, and we have had some good joint meetings in the past, and I also think it's great to point out what a potential win this is for Indianola. We've worked for a lot of years to have Hubble develop and build here, and they never have. So that's awesome, right? We're doing good things. Our staff is doing good things to encourage us to have development. This piece of ground in particular has been marketed for a long time as one of our growth areas, supporting all Jerry's and homes out there and some of the other developers. And so I think it's good for us all to be on the same page, and I think it's a wonderful potential addition. The good thing about development is we start talking about it now. In 3 years, when it's reality and there's students, there's plenty of time to make some plans for it. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, can I get a motion to approve consent agenda item K?
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Rabe,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Sones,
Aye.
Lane.
Aye.
Item passes 6-0. Thank you to Hubble Homes for showing interest in our community. Do we have any council committee member reports that they would like to speak on? Bob, you're shaking your head over there?
Yeah, I do. The last Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, to those that use the acronym, had their meeting on May 21st, a monthly meeting that I attend. Most of it was basic stuff you've all heard before from our meetings, but two topics that did come up. One was they were going to have a presentation on the reauthorization of funding, and unfortunately, that is going to have to be done another time. They're going to continue monitoring the feds and their bill, but it had just gotten introduced to the House reauthorization and didn't come forward, so there wasn't really any report they could provide. The other thing is the Iowa Department of Transportation Regional Projects update. They said last year most of the funds were spent on the up by the flyover on 141 going to Grimes, and now this year it will be on most of that funding is going to go to the Northeast Mixmaster, and they will be constructing soon the eastbound lanes, and then next year they will add the reconstruction of the lanes that will be used once they get the eastbound lanes done. So beyond that, it's just a lot of updating on figures and reports. There wasn't much else to come out of it.
Thank you, Bob. Melissa, you have any?
I do. First, I want to mention that Main Street has an event coming up on Friday. That's the Food Truck Festival happening on East Salem from 5:30 to 9:30. Lots of fun to be had there. I've lost track of how many food trucks we have lined up, but many. So come on out. I'm sure you'll find some good food that will fill your tummies there. Also, we had a SERPTA meeting and did business as usual, like approving financial statements. I do want to mention that not the last meeting, but the meeting before, I was elected as the lucky person to be secretary and treasurer for SERPTA. I think I have failed to mention that, so that's me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not a lot for me to do because thankfully we have a good staff with that office that handles a lot of the business. So I'm just kind of a fill-in if first, second, and third are not available. So good for me. We approved the final fiscal year 2027 unified plan. And you know what? And also, we did approve the transportation improvement program, which is called the TIP for 2026 through 2029. And within that is our lane expansion for North Jefferson from Burger King to Highway 92 for the turn lane. We're hoping to get some funding for that to get that project at least looked at and figure out what we have going on for project costs and what's involved there. We received a presentation on the data bike program and what's possible there. Indianola used the data bike to ride trails and sidewalks, so they're thinking about expanding it out. We'll hear more about that as they determine what's possible. So Jake and staff will be sharing more. And then we adopted the 2050 long-range transportation plan, Safe Streets for All. That's about it for SRPTA. Landfill, we met last week and appointed our fifth member, who is our members representative, David Pettit. Glad to have him on. He is replacing Mel Cox, who resigned. And we approved a $1.10 CPIU increase in hazardous household waste fee. And we will be moving forward with hiring an assistant manager for the landfill. We anticipate that we will have the landfill manager announcing retirement at some point in the future, and the plan is for the assistant manager to replace the manager at some point in the future. So that is the succession plan. And lastly, we approved employee increases at 4%. That is all I have.
Thank you. No good council meeting is complete without a landfill update, so we appreciate that. So we'll move on. Actually, does anyone else have one?
Yeah, we've got one. Bob, I don't know if you want to share. We had an economic development meeting, and I can never remember how much we're allowed to share publicly, but we did do some high-level review of a new commercial site plan that's still going to come into town. Is that about the extent that I can say for right now?
Well,
Yeah, I figured as much, but I just want to make sure nothing's changed. These things change quick. I don't what I'm about to say. I don't want changed. So we reviewed the Culver site plan for here in town, and that project should be moving forward. Really a nice job with staff to make use of a difficult to develop lot. So that's great. And then we got kind of a light update on Deer Run and some of what they're trying to do out there with some different TIF and development agreements, and see if there's legs for them to pick that project back up. I think we'll probably hear more over the next few months. So
So looking at doing like multiple development agreements.
I think that's the plan. They're trying to figure out a lot of their funding, I think.
Sure.
So.
Any other? All right, I think that is it for committee reports. We'll move on to the CPSM presentation regarding the police department. I think we have a presentation. All right.
I can give a quick introduction. I know we've got Jared on the screen here. He'll give his presentation. Just by way, a little bit of background. The city entered into an agreement with the Center for Public Safety Management, also known as CPSM, to conduct a comprehensive analysis of police, fire, and emergency medical services back in September of 2025. The comprehensive police operations and data report concludes that the Indianola Police Department is a highly professional organization with personnel committed to serving the community. CPSM has provided 34 recommendations that support the department's ongoing development and identify opportunities to enhance efficiency and effectiveness. This presentation will give the City Council an opportunity to review the study's findings and ask any questions that you may have. The results will also inform the development of a departmental work plan focused on continuous improvement. A final draft of the fire and EMS report has been received and will be reviewed over the next couple of weeks, with final presentation to City Council to follow here in the not too distant future. Okay. With that, turn it over to Jared.
Well, good evening, everybody. And before I start talking, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me this time.
Absolutely.
Everything's good. Perfect. All right. Well, as Jake said, my name is Jared Berguan. I am a consultant with the Center for Public Safety Management, CPSM. We are a nationwide firm that does these types of studies, whether it's staffing studies, operational assessments, and even strategic planning, management analysis type work all over the country. We've done this for nearly 500 departments throughout the nation and even up into Canada. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the report that we did. I want to talk a little bit about our methodology. When we come in and do a project like this, we start with the data piece. We consider patrol data that comes out of a department's CAD system as the cornerstone to making any staffing recommendations for any police department around the country. And then we take that data from the patrol side to understand what the true patrol workload is, and then build out the rest of the organization to make sure that they are supporting the patrol function and getting work done in the most efficient way possible. So we start with the data analysis part. Beyond that, we have a series of interviews with individuals in the department. We do focus groups with groups of employees. We ask the department for, in some cases, hundreds of pages of documents to best understand the organization. And then finally, we do an on-site observational time where we spend time with the department. We meet people in person. We do patrol ride-alongs. We see the facilities. We see the equipment. We see the operations firsthand to provide context to everything that we've learned about the organization to ultimately do our report and make our recommendations. Next slide. After we do all of that work, and after we do our site visit, we will produce a report that actually comes out in a draft form. We have a discussion back and forth with city and department officials to talk about that draft report, mostly to make sure that we got it right. These are things that sometimes we put information in there that we learned from individuals, where there may be different context to what they said or something of that nature. So we have a discussion to make sure that everything we put in that report is accurate and correct. Ultimately, in this case, we produced a final report. That's a comprehensive operational assessment of the department. It is data-driven at its core, and within that are 34 recommendations. And I want to be cautious right here in saying that because we made 34 recommendations does not mean that we found 34 things wrong with the department. Our viewpoint on these is to make every department a little bit better and to meet them where they are and to find ways to recommend ways to improve their efficiency and improve their operational effectiveness for the communities that they serve. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there are 34 errors within the organization. They're just areas that we recognized for potential improvement. What I'm going to do throughout the next 15 to 20 minutes of this presentation is go over some of those recommendations, not all of them, but some of the bigger ones. And then I also want to go over some of the content that you're going to see inside of the report to kind of give you a little bit of an idea as to how it works together, specifically in the area of the methodology associated with developing patrol staffing. So next slide, please. Within the report, you're going to see some charts and graphs that talk about the Indianola community in respect to both state and national averages. So that particular slide that you see up there, that is a table that is inside of the police report. It compares Indianola to a series of other municipalities within Iowa. It also compares it against the state averages and the national averages as it applies to reported crime in the community. You're going to see some raw numbers on there. That does not mean that you had in 2023 241 reported violent crimes, or in 2024 273 reported crimes. Everything on that page is indexed to a population of 100,000. So for communities that are under 100,000, you're going to see a higher number than average. For communities that are over 100,000, you're going to see a lower number than is average. But it's done as a metric to measure community by community against an even population base. And you'll see on there that Indianola, although you're significantly lower than the national averages in both violent and property crime, you are at or even a little bit above some of the state averages. In no way, shape, or form does this imply that Indianola is a crime-ridden community. Iowa, as a general, has a very, very low crime rate in comparison to the national average. Next slide, please. Another type of graph that you're going to see in the report are some crime trends. So in this particular place, this example that's in the report, this is one line represents property crime. That's the dark line on the top. One line represents violent crime. That's the reported property and violent crime to the FBI UCR reporting system for the last 10 years. And you'll see some general trends there. So in property crime, you saw that it was fairly static from 2015 to 2017. There was a little bit of an uptick in property-related crime in 2018, and then there's been a gradual decrease since then, with the exception of a minor uptick in 2023. The bottom line for violent crime shows a little bit more discrepancy with up and down numbers, but obviously with much lower overall numbers in general. Next slide. So getting into the organization as a whole, you're going to see an org chart there that we created. That is the as-is condition of the police department at the time that we were assessing it. It's not necessarily what we would recommend. In fact, we do make some recommendation for some structural changes within the organization that would even change the look of this org chart. But that is the org chart on the day that we were there. The department has 31 authorized positions. That includes 24 sworn positions from the police chief all the way down to the police officers, and 7 civilian positions in the agency. And the Indianola PD is essentially a full-service policing agency, meaning that it takes care of its own business. It doesn't necessarily mean that it does everything. It has shared service models when it comes to certain types of operational things like SWAT teams and things such as that. But if it happens in Indianola, absent the department needing to potentially request a surge in manpower or assistance in an investigation, it is a full-service police agency. Next slide. So now we're going to get into explaining how some of the data works in the report. You're going to see a figure there on the screen. That is just one example of dozens and dozens of figures and tables that are inside of this report. What we do is we take your CAD data and we break it down in multiple different ways. That particular figure shows the distribution of all the events and whether they are officer initiated, whether they are community initiated, somebody that called the police requiring assistance, or there's a very small percentage there that are considered zero on scene, and I'll explain those in a second. What we like to see is a good balance, that for all of the community initiated calls, when people are calling dispatch and they're saying, I need an officer, I need to report something, that you're not seeing a workload profile that is completely dominated by that with little to no proactive work going on. So as you see there's a fairly even distribution, with actually a little bit more than half of all the reported activity in the CAD system being generated by police officers on patrol. That could be anything from conducting extra patrols to traffic stops to subject checks to proactive investigations. About 44% of all the activity found in the CAD system came from externally generated CAD calls or calls for service. And then that zero on scene category, what that really means is that for the records that were in CAD, there are certain records that are in the system for a very, very short period of time, typically less than 30 seconds of an overall incident. Because we know that that can disrupt the overall workload percentages or some of the analysis that we're doing, we call them events on the front side. We identify what the zero on scene ones, and then when we get into the deeper analysis of the organization, we tend to exclude those so they don't inflate other numbers in the report. Where that typically comes from is, and I'm going to give a hypothetical of where we typically see it. An officer is told that they want to make sure that they're documenting extra patrols at, let's say, a certain park in town. And they want to make sure that when that officer goes by and does the extra patrol at that place, that they notify dispatch so it can get logged in the system. So the officer will drive over there, they'll conduct the extra patrol, they'll do the work, they'll go back into service. Quite often, though, they'll just do it and just tell dispatch, hey, show that I did an extra patrol at this park, and then they move on. So dispatch opens the incident and they almost close it immediately. That's a 0 on scene. And you can see there was a lot more time that went into that call than less than 30 seconds. That's why we start to exclude them from the larger analysis. When it comes to overall patrol staffing, we use a system called the Rule of 60. And what the Rule of 60 ultimately is, it's an academic study that involved hundreds of police agencies in the country. And it was a study that was intended to provide a baseline level of what patrol staffing should look like in a community. And the Rule of 60 has 2 parts. One, it says that out of all the sworn officers in your agency, you should have at least 60% of those officers dedicated to the patrol function. And then of those officers that are dedicated to the patrol function, you don't want to see their documented workload, their calls for service, the community service demands, and even some of the proactive demands exceeding 60% of their workdays. Not because you want to see your workforce be idle for 40% of the day or not have anything to do, but because when we talk about the capacity to handle surge events, when we talk about the capacity to have resources available to immediately respond to emergencies and to have the workforce in place to handle the average workload, we like to keep that number at or below 60% so that it can easily absorb the times that it exceeds that in an efficient way and in a way that delivers service to the community. So on that first rule, where at least 60% of the sworn workforce is dedicated to the patrol function, in the case of Indianola, your number is 67%. So you're in line or meeting industry metrics according to the Rule of 60. Next slide. So now we talk about 60% workload. So as I said, there's a lot of call data in the particular report that you're looking at, not only in the patrol analysis part, but also in the data analytics in the back that has even more information that's just than what is just seen in the patrol part. You'll see that figure there, 5-14. That is the percentage of the Indianola Police Department during the weekdays during the winter. When we break down workload, we do it based upon winter and summer, and we try to break it down based upon weekdays and weekends, understanding that those can be completely different dynamics depending on season, depending on time of the week in different communities. Some agencies get significantly busier in the summer. Some agencies stay fairly static throughout the year. Some agencies, it might be a veteran community that gets very, very busy on the weekend, much slower during the weekdays. So we measure all 4 of those areas in a way to best understand workload throughout the year. In addition to that, we also see inside that data set everything from all the types of calls that happened, how long those calls take, how many officers were assigned to calls on average, how efficient the department is at handling those things, how long it took the department to respond to those types of calls, all to build it into an overall workload piece, such as these figures that you see on there. There are 2 graphs, or 2 lines that you see on there. One is the green line, that is total work, that is everything that an Indianola police officer might be doing. The orange line on the bottom is just the community initiated work, the calls that were called into dispatch with an officer that had to handle that. The bottom axis on that particular graph is the time of day, everything from midnight at the 0 all the way to just past 23 or 24, which would be the 24 hours in a day. And then the left axis, the vertical axis, is the workload percentage. And you see right in the middle of that 60% number with the orange dotted line. That is the line that we don't like to see either one of those lines go over with any degree of regularity. So you can see, and if you read that particular chart, you'll see that, for example, at 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning, the workload percentage in Indianola is very, very low. But you go throughout that, you work your way into the day, and suddenly that overall workload percentage goes up and approaches 40% for a good part of that day. And for a period of time, it actually starts to approach 60. But we don't see that it exceeds 60, so it doesn't necessarily concern us. And at the end of the day, because all of the particular graphs that you have in this area and all of the workload data did not have any real workload that exceeded that 60 percentile, we made the assumption and the finding that your patrol staffing is adequate to handle your current workload, and we do not make any additional recommendations for patrol personnel in the agency. Next slide. We do, however, make some recommendations that impact patrol. One of the things that concerned us a little bit is that when we saw the CAD data, and your dispatch center is operated by Warren County. It's not an Indianola Police Dispatch Center. So Warren County does this, and this is likely an issue that we would think that you need to work with Warren County to fix. Well, within the CAD system, there was no established priority matrix time. Not necessarily problematic in your community because you have the capacity and it's a fairly light workload that anytime a call comes in, an officer can immediately get dispatched out. But if you end up in a busier environment, well, then there's a need to make sure that those higher priority calls always get dispatched first. Lower priority calls can wait in the event that calls are sitting on the screen and waiting. So we encourage the agency to work with Warren County to establish a call priority matrix within the existing CAD system. We also make some recommendations for some data collection improvements on the part of patrol officers. It's very common in the policing industry, in the work that we do, that not everything that an officer does gets captured in CAD. The most common examples is when officers are writing police reports and sometimes doing some of that administrative type work, they just do it while they're showing available for a call in the CAD system. It's very much a baked in part of policing culture, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It comes from a good ethical standpoint of wanting to be efficient and always be available to respond, but it's not necessarily helpful in giving a community a true picture of the workload. So if an officer, for instance, is only shows busy 40% of their shift, but the reality is the other 40%, they're busy typing police reports, that actually shows a much heavier workload percentage, closer to 80% than 40%. So we make some recommendations that the agency improve some of those data collection efforts. And then finally, we did see in your data that one of the major drivers of all of your activity is traffic related, whether it's traffic accidents, traffic stops, traffic enforcement work, parking violations, whatever it might be. That was a significant driver within all of the workload in Indianola. And we also understand that those types of things can be driven by community priorities, complaint driven because people are concerned about speeding, people speeding through their neighborhoods, speeding on certain streets, and the department has a very active approach. What we encourage, though, is that when that is the case in a community, that you develop data-driven strategies for traffic enforcement, that you're not just out writing random traffic tickets just to show that you're busy, that you're actually focused in on efforts that reduce traffic collisions, that potentially address crime in a proactive manner, and in a way that actually responds to the community concerns, and it's not just a stat-driven process. Now, we don't make any of those allegations that that's happening within IPD, but at the same time, there's not necessarily a data-driven strategy in place, and we encourage the agency to develop one and adopt it. Next page. Just a couple other recommendations, and we'll talk about these broadly. We make some staffing recommendations in the report. The first one there, converting the existing captain position into an administrative positions. We also make some recommendations for some administrative clerks to be reclassified into records clerks and into property and evidence type clerk. Those recommendations are not necessarily done without a great deal of conversation and input with the organization. In the case of the existing captain's position, it's not that we as consultants had a significant issue that the organizational structure within IPD had a captain's position. It had more to do with the evolution of how work was getting done in the organization, the current changeover with Chief Hawkins in that position, having vacated the captain's position, and the fact that there was really a greater need for something akin to an administrative sergeant position in the organization based upon deficiencies that we saw within the internal affairs investigative workflow and some of the other duties and responsibilities that would have fallen onto that administrative captain. So after some discussions with the chief, we felt that that was a good recommendation for the organization. We also focused a lot on training within the organization. LAPD is really, really good. One of the highlights that the people in the organization pointed out is they thought the department was really receptive at providing training to the patrol people. If you're a patrol officer and you've got a desire to specialize in a certain area, really a pretty good chance that the police department was going to make an effort to get that training available to you to make yourself better. What does not necessarily exist is a larger succession plan as well as a training matrix. And what we mean by a training matrix is based upon where you are in your career and what your assignment is, there are certain baseline levels of training that should be received by anybody and everybody that's in those particular positions. And that builds itself into a succession plan. A succession plan does not necessarily in and of itself mean that you're identifying a certain person in the organization that you think is going to be the future chief. What it does is through a training matrix and through a documented succession plan, puts everybody in the organization on even keel. And once you've developed yourself into a certain point in your career, whether it's as a lieutenant or as a captain or even as a sergeant, that you have equitable access to certain types of training that all of your peers do, and that is a priority for the organization to develop all people within those positions. So we make those recommendations to build that up for the future of the organization. Select positions identifies the reclassification or better job alignment. That had to do largely with the civilian administrative positions that we saw. Of the 7 positions in the organization, a number of them were doing records type work. Some of them were doing some miscellaneous type administrative things. We clarified it in greater detail, and we also make some recommendations for fewer positions in that. Part of that has to do with is we don't think you need to have a 24/7 front office piece, that you can shut that office down during the evening hours and rely on the code or on the phone that's just outside of the station that calls into dispatch. So with the reduction in hours, there's less need for that desk coverage, and we recommend a realignment of some of those positions, specifically as records clerk and specifically as a property and evidence clerk. There is overall a recommendation to eliminate 2 positions, not because we don't think that those people have value, but it's our understanding of retirements that are happening in the organization, movement that was already taking place, and just the fact that you could probably save some money by not filling those positions in the future. And then finally, we talk about an off-duty employment policy. You're in a region that it's very, very common for certain types of duties and responsibilities, whether it's a concert at a venue in the county, a fair, whatever it might be, that there are officers pulled to work those particular types of events. And whenever you're doing that, where you've got somebody acting under the capacity of an Indianola police officer, they may or not be working within the capacity of wearing your uniform, but in many cases they are. We encourage that you have a very strong policy that not only the department is comfortable with, but that the city's legal is comfortable with, and that it's clearly understood who that officer is working for, under what authority they fall under, and also gives you the ability to restrict certain types of off-duty employment if it's not in the best interest of the community. All of which can be done by establishing a formal policy. We recommend that you do that. Next slide. A couple other things on focused improvement. Everybody knows that the police department and the fire department has some issues with their current facilities. It was made very, very clear to us that you are making efforts to try to rectify that, try to fix that. So there's no point in us hounding away at that. However, even within the area that you are making use out of, we highlighted some pretty specific concerns as it applies to the storage of evidence and department property. We just recently had a changeover in leadership, or at least when we were on site doing this work. Chief Hawkins had recently taken the new position as police chief. We feel that that's a very good time to do an inventory audit of the property room. It's a changeover in leadership. It gives the new chief an opportunity to start fresh from ensuring that everything that is in that property room, or everything that should be in that property room, is in that property room. That has not been done in many years. And we also make recommendations for the secure storage and inventory control systems for not only department property, but evidence as well. And we also recommend formal training for the evidence custodian. So that's one of those civilian positions that we've made a recommendation that you convert it to a CSO position with the responsibility of evidence. Next slide. Big picture things for the organization to think about. Maintaining your own policy manual is difficult at best. It's hard for smaller agencies when you've got a relatively small number of people in the organization that are wearing multiple hats and have multiple administrative responsibilities. It's very easy that as new changes come about within the industry and there's a need to update your policy, it's very easy to fall behind. Whenever you do have policies, they should be legally reviewed to make sure that your city's legal staff is comfortable with the wording and the language within that. And most importantly, you've got to have a process to make sure that, that there's an attestation process and that everybody in the organization gets that. There is really one vendor in the country that does this very, very well. We spoke with leadership about that particular vendor, not that we advocate for them, not that we are agents of them, but simply it's a policy subscription service that does that for you and ensures that all that work gets done in the way that it should, and it guarantees you a state-specific policy manual that is updated whenever changes at the state level occur. So we encourage the agency to evaluate that policy subscription process. We also talked to the agency about pursuing accreditation through the state of Iowa. That process is available. There's a national thing called CALIA, which can be very, very labor intensive, and I would never recommend that for an agency such as Indianola, just because it would put far too many administrative demands on your agency. But state level accreditation processes are usually far more manageable. Iowa has one, and we encourage the agency to evaluate that and consider signing up for that process and pursuing it. We made some recommendations on the internal affairs process, specifically that the recommended administrative sergeant be the primary point person on administrative investigations, but you also should make some improvements on the complaint process, specifically in making sure that the capacity for the organization to receive and accept complaints is done in a professional way. And we saw some shortcomings in the way that was being done right now. Of course, I talked about the clerical staffing recommendations already. Next slide. Again, I want to follow up. 34 recommendations in the report. Nothing is intended to be a criticism. It's intended to help the organization find things to improve. The most important piece on this often has to do with staffing. We make some recommendations for some staffing changes, but no additional staffing recommendations for the agency. But nonetheless, we also know that some of the recommendations that we do make are going to cost the agency some money. Some of them might require some strategic planning and some capital investment that's just going to take time. So we don't expect any of these things would happen within days or months. In some cases, it may take a couple of years to implement those things. Big picture, every organization in this country deals with challenges, and everything is scalable. Des Moines PD is down the street from you. They are obviously a large organization. They're more robust. They might have individual units or a single person taking care of a single function, whereas Indianola PD is a smaller agency where one person might be wearing 4 or 5 different hats. Big picture, we think IPD is doing a pretty good job balancing it. We think it's a professional organization, and we found that it's an organization of people that are dedicated to your community. And I think that is a testament to what you've created there. Finally, I want to, you go to the next slide there. I want to thank Chief Hawkins for welcoming us into the department. Thank Jake for having us come in and the opportunity to work with you. And with that said, I welcome any and all questions you might have about the report or anything that we wrote in there.
Appreciate it, Jared. So does anyone in council have any questions? I've got a couple if no one else has. So Jared, the administrative sergeant position, well, what exactly does that entail? What does that person do?
Yeah, so every department, as I just said, there's an agency like Indianola PD, you're going to have people that are going to be wearing multiple hats. So for instance, that administrative sergeant, first and foremost, we would desire that person have primary responsibilities over the internal affairs function. And we do that specifically so that there's one person that manages investigations, so that everything is done in a very, very consistent, by the book manner, and that all employees that find themselves in the midst of an employee or of an investigation get treated in the same way. So first and foremost, that sergeant should take over that particular function. But even some of the other things that I talked about, comes to developing a written succession plan for the organization. When we're talking about, even though we recommend a policy subscription service, you still need somebody to kind of be the conduit between your provider and the organization to approve the draft policies that come in through that provider. So that's another area and duty. Somebody to handle a lot of the scheduling dynamics, and then somebody to catch just all of the various administrative things that are going to come into the agency where it may not sit and reside within a certain position in the department. Really, a lot of them are things that were shared responsibilities that Chief Hawkins was doing when he was sitting in the administrative or in the captain's position. We're simply recommending that a lot of those things can be moved down in the organization, understanding that Chief Hawkins is leading the organization in a slightly different way and took some of those captain responsibilities with him to the chief's position. A lot of the other things that fell off should fall to an administrative sergeant position.
I had one more question for you, Jared. You were talking about the audit of the evidence room. How often do you guys recommend that an audit be completed?
So within the industry, there's an organization called IAPE, International Association of Property and Evidence, I think is what it stands for. Their recommendation is that you do an audit every 2 to 3 years. From our standpoint, when we come in and do an assessment on the organization, we're not auditors. We just look to see, are you managing your property room within the confines of a best practice? We would probably not criticize you if you did not have an external audit within the last 5 years, as long as you had good internal practices and you were doing your own internal spot audits. The big audit that we reference here, that you even consider having an outside person come in and doing it, is that you have a changeover in leadership. So it's an opportunity for a clean slate. And we're not recommending for one moment that anything is missing out of that room, but we know that when controversies hit organizations, they quite often have to do with the way that property and evidence is handled. Cash that is taken for evidence or safekeeping or found property has to be properly accounted for, drugs that are taken in, all kinds of sensitive things. And if something happens down the road that there are things missing, it may or may not be the fault of the current administration. So when you have that changeover and you have that opportunity to make sure that this is the baseline level that the current leadership is dealing with, start fresh, do it from there, and then deal with whatever may exist in there that's missing as a past problem in the organization. As long as you do that once at a change of leadership and you're doing some of your own internal spot checks on a regular basis throughout the year or annually, we're probably pretty satisfied with that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone else have some questions? Bob, go ahead.
I just have one. One of your select recommendations, Jared, was the off-duty employment policy. I would assume you would have one, two, you picked a number of ones that you might recommend we consider.
We can always
Chief Hawkinson.
Yeah, we
ahead.
can always find some sample policies for you. And even at that, if you do the policy subscription service, they'll have a sample policy in there as well. The easiest way to do it, to be honest with you, would be to reach out to your neighboring peer agencies to first see if any of them have one, to ensure that whatever is kind of the regional norm fits, your organizational culture and fits your, your department. If you don't have that, we are more than happy to be a resource. If Chief Hawkins wants to reach out, we will find some sample policies for the department to evaluate.
All right, thank you. I just didn't think there was any point in trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, no, and we would never recommend that you just create it, just out of thin air. Undoubtedly, there are agencies within your region that have something that already fits within the structure and the framework of your greater Des Moines metro area and the things that other departments are dealing with. And like I said, if it doesn't, we'll provide some samples for you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything, Tiffany or Melissa?
I do. Jared, you talk about inventory of evidence, but I'm wondering about inventory of like equipment, and like ammunition type things that we have on hand. What did you find there, or do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, we did. So that all fits into the same recommendation. So it's basically a department quartermaster type things. What we did observe is within IPD, we think that that's a weakness in the organization. And that was just based upon some of our own observations, you know, as within the facility, which is in not the greatest of condition and lacks storage and lacks some infrastructure things that have been well documented. You know, we saw some boxes of ammunition that were probably sitting in an area that just wasn't the most secure. And we made some of those types of on-site observations. So a strong quartermaster program that can either fall within the CSO that we recommend for property and evidence, or even as an ancillary duty to the administrative sergeant position, but to develop those inventory metrics so that you know every single weapon that you should have, and you should have the ability to know exactly where it is and who it's assigned to and where you can find it if you need it. But not only weapons, any equipment that the department buys, including ammunition. Now, you can choose to distribute ammunition as you choose. You can choose to say, well, we want to be able to give every officer 500 rounds a year, or we want to give them 100 rounds a year to qualify. That's entirely your decision. But what you should make sure is that if you buy 1,000 rounds, it fits your distribution profile, and you know that one officer didn't get 1,000 and then the other officer didn't get anything. And that's all managed through a good quartermaster and inventory control system. And that is one of the problematic areas we saw in the organization.
And that's where you're saying that sergeant position that you recommend to handle kind of beefing up that inventory policy.
Yeah, whether you elect to put that responsibility directly on that sergeant, we also think that even within the capacity, even though the property and evidence room has some heavy lifting on the front side, once you get that in place and it's being managed appropriately, that property and evidence custodian that we recommended could probably also handle the quartermaster duties in an organization the size of Indianola. That's a management decision that we would not criticize one way or the other, as long as you're thoughtful about the way that you make those decisions and manage it in the department. But it could reside either place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, well, Jared, we appreciate you taking the time again. We're sorry about the last meeting where we had the technology issues, but thank you for making time for us tonight.
No problem. Thank you very much, and we are always here. I know Fire is going to be giving their presentation here in a short bit, but on behalf of the organization, appreciate the opportunity to come in and work with you, and we're always here as a resource.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that moves us to the police department annual report, so.
If I may.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, go ahead.
Chief, I know that you've been working hand in hand on the CPSM study. I know you're going to go right into the annual report, but just want to give you an opportunity too, if you want to comment on the findings of the report, as well as some of the actions that you've already taken on with the help of Lieutenant Sparks in some cases to move some of those things forward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Obviously, just listened to Jared and CPSM with their staffing study. A lot of good information. To Jake's point, we've had this information for a good little while now. We've actually made some progress on some certain things, recommendations that were in the report. Notably, our clerical staffing obviously has changed since even when that baseline report was done. We are not running 24-hour operations. We've actually had some staff have already left, and we still have one staff member that will be departing by June 13th. So we kind of adjusted our clerical staffing as recommended by CPSM. We're actually in the beginning stages of the Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. There is currently a grant that they have in place right now, which would waive basically the entry fee into that program. And so we are right now in the process of filling that application out. That grant needs to be, that application needs to be submitted by October. We expect to get that done in the next 4 weeks or so. law enforcement accreditation program has 87 points for agencies to get accredited. Most of them are policy related. Best practices. In the presentation that CPSM talked about, they talked about the policy subscription through CPS or Lexipol. That is going to be a major component in us getting accredited. A lot of those policies that are provided by Lexipol fall in line with state of Iowa accreditation as well as CALIA accreditation, which is CALIA is the national accreditation. But we're probably going to be having some discussions. Lieutenant Sparks has already been having some exploratory meetings with Lexipol on policy subscriptions and what that might look like cost-wise. But in order for us to move towards an accreditation or best practices for our law enforcement agency, that's going to be a must. So that's something that we're going to have to bring back to the table and visit with you guys about. And so you can expect to hear from me on that. Citizen complaint process that they mentioned, that has already been taken care of. We have redesigned that whole program, including putting something online that's already active and is being utilized. So credit to Lieutenant Sparks, he spearheaded that, and also Aaron Young with communications, he helped get that online, and so we have already fulfilled that recommendation, and it's going well. We've, in addition, in talking about the audits that they talked about the evidence room, we have not done a full audit. I will tell you that we've done partial audits in 2 of the last 4 years. In that evidence room, we have not been able to do a full audit at this time. We did reach out to the IAPC or PE that Jared mentioned in his report. It's quite a significant fee for them to come and do an audit. I can't recall the dollar figure off the top of my head, but it was significant. So we're looking at some other options that would satisfy it, including maybe bringing in another law enforcement agency to conduct that on an impartial basis or some variation thereof in order to be cost effective. So we are working on that. As far as the ammunition, we actually today, this morning, we moved our ammunition to a central point in our office that is now behind closed and locked doors, and we'll be working on a little bit different documentation policy on how we manage that. So that's also in progress. We've just done a lot of different things in response to the report since we've had it for a couple of months. So I just wanted to highlight that to council's attention, that we didn't wait for them to come bring the report to you. We've already made significant strides. The administrative sergeant position, that's actually budgeted for in the FY27 budget. Now what I will tell you is that because of staffing levels, I don't anticipate being able to fill that for a while until we get our staff up in place as far as hiring our vacant police officers, getting them through training, because they can't afford to pull officers off their current assignments to fill that administrative sergeant position. But that is budgeted for. I worked with the city manager and Jackie to get that in the FY27 budget. So I would welcome any questions that you might have in anything that I've had to say.
I thank you for being receptive and willing to listen to some of those and act proactively. And I certainly understand some of the facility challenges that you have for some of those recommendations. So
the evidence room is a primary concern, but we actually, and just today, we actually met with our detectives, and we actually are talking through possible solutions. So more to come on that when I have more to report. But we actually have a potential working scenario that we might be able to work out. I haven't even told Jake about it because it's very fresh. So we're working through those, but space is a challenge. We have no storage space in our police department, none. And so we're having to get extremely creative in how we are moving things around, but some things you can't move around, concrete walls, things of that nature. So we are limited by design right now with what we have.
So we will certainly do the best we can. But overall, we felt like the CPSM staffing study was a good exercise for us in a lot of ways. You know, one of the things that we talked about extensively from the rule of 60 that Jared shared with you, you know, we fell below that 60% line, which is good, but a lot of the administrative time that our officers are spending on reports and other functions really isn't documented in that, and they talked about that. So that amount of workload for our officers is actually higher than is indicated in that report. And we are taking steps proactively to even change that. We've started asking our officers to call out, make trip cards for when they are writing reports, making phone calls, doing follow-ups on cases that we used to not do because we wanted to be seen as available for calls. And he had kind of alluded to that in his presentation, but it also dilutes the amount of work that we're doing. Also, it's showing that we're maybe not doing as much work as the officers actually are doing. And so for us, we want to give an accurate representation of the work that's being done. So we've asked our officers to do that. So I think next year, I'm going to present the annual report here in a moment, but next year you're going to see our calls for service. Those numbers are going to be higher because there's going to be more officer-initiated activity because of the recommendation off of the CPSM report. So next year, when that number is significantly higher, you're going to be like, oh yeah, it's the CPSM report. So, but I think that will more accurately reflect what we're doing. But traditionally, we haven't done that because, you know, if officers go, you know, I worked a patrol shift last night. I took a report on a domestic. I came back and normally I would not have called out to do a report. I would have just went back to the office, wrote my report, and stayed in service. Last night, I came back to the office and I called out of service and said, hey, I'm out at the police department to file a report. So showing that administrative time from a functionality standpoint and what we're actually doing. So definitely some fundamental changes on how we're policing based off the CPSM report. I do want to give a couple thank yous, actually three. Number one, to CPSM, Jared, Gene, his staff there at CPSM. They were great to work with, pretty responsive to when we had questions. Secondly, I want to thank Jake and the members of council for actually authorizing the study. To be honest, I was a little on the fence as that goes, but honestly, it was a great exercise for us in a lot of ways, made us reimagine how we're doing business. So that's never a bad thing, especially as a new chief. It's nice to come in. I'm not going to say with a roadmap, but it just gave us a nice direction to go on some things that we probably needed to change and look at. So I'm appreciative of that and to Jake's guidance on that. And then lastly, I want to give a special shout out to Sergeant Brad Metcalf. He did a lot of administrative work on the upload of data to CPSM. It was a significant lift, and we could not have done that without Sergeant Metcalf and his efforts. So I want to publicly thank him for his efforts in this project because he kind of took the point on this project. So that's about what I have to say for CPSM right now, unless you guys have any other questions.
If I may, I'd just like to say a couple of words quick. You know, I can't commend Chief, police leadership, all of our officers enough for their role in this entire process to this point. Very receptive, very open, very responsive to all of the data demands, as he mentioned, Sergeant Metcalf meeting and exceeding all of those. I think they've been wonderful through this entire process as a staff. And again, from Chief and the police leadership being very critical of the final report, which was great. You know, that's what Jared and Gene, that's what they want. They don't want us just to blindly accept the document they give us. They want it to make us they want us to make it our own and make sure that it accurately reflects what we experience here in Indianola, not making it boilerplate and really fine tuning it, and the detail that Chief and his staff went into with them to ask the good questions to really get to the root of the issues. Will make the study as valuable as it is. Enough can't be said about the strides that Chief and his team have already made at this. I know he just kind of went through that laundry list, but changing to staffing models already, the complaint commendation form, pursuing accreditation, evidence, ammunition, all of the property type items. Very proactive in just essentially receiving those as of today officially, but having those and the amount of work that's been done. And as Jared said, the department is highly professional and very committed to this community. And I think if there's just one thing that I walk away from this is just how fortunate we are as a city to have the strong leadership that we have, as well as the officers, the men and the women who are out there day in, day out serving this community. I don't think we could ask for any more out of our police department, and we're incredibly fortunate, incredibly blessed, and just really excited to see that even as good as they are, we have opportunities to fine tune and hone in. So great experience, look forward to the future, and just so thankful for what we have.
I just wanted to say, I recently got to do a ride-along, and it was kind of like to what Jake said, it was eye-opening to see everything that you guys do. And so when I saw that 60% number, I kind of took me back, because I was like, he did more than I ever thought, like, cops do on a daily. So I'm glad that those already are being included, and I wanted to call out to change can be hard, especially, with doing studies like this, and you find things and being receptive. And one of the biggest things that Officer Hurley stated was that he's like, I love working here because of internal, that everyone has each other's backs, everyone gets along, we're there for each other. And so, the fact that he drives from, Bondurant, I think that speaks volumes as well to the department. So huge shout out on that.
Thank you. You know what, and I'm going to talk about it in the annual report, but the strength of our department will always be the people.
I was going to say the same thing. When I did my ride-along, every officer that I have ridden with, or I had a snowed-in ride-along as well, a stay in, and experience the internal processes, which was nice to see. But every officer that I sat with or rode with, it just has a sense of pride in our community, and they want to be here, they want to work here. And you sense that, you feel that, you hear that, you see it, and you ran down these changes that have already been made that shows that you guys have accepted the CPSM study, and kudos to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great exercise. Again, change can be hard, but at the same time, we are a professional organization, and we want to be in line with best practices, and because we recognize that if we're in line with best practices, that means the level of service that we provide outward to our community and our visitors here in Indianola will be top notch too.
Yeah, and I understand you're working in tight quarters, but it definitely sounds like you're challenging yourself to play the game of Tetris, and
we are going to reimagine spaces to the best of our abilities. To some things we can't move, but we'll do the best we can with what we have.
Thank you.
With that, if there's no other questions or comments on CPSM, I'm going to go into our department annual report from 2025. Before I do, I just want to do a quick mention. This afternoon up in Johnston, they had a barricaded subject where a deputy from the Polk County Sheriff's Office was shot and injured this afternoon. So I want to extend my thoughts out to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Johnston PD, our federal partners, for their response. So with that, I don't want to belabor the point, but it's just a good reminder of why we want to do best practices and why we do what we do every single day. So good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. Members of council, thank you for allowing me time tonight to present the Indianola Police Department 2025 annual report with the fancy car up there. Our department remains committed to the core values of integrity, professionalism, and dedication. This document highlights our people, operations, accomplishments, and continued commitment to serving the Indianola community. As we reflect on 2025 in this annual report, which again, this is a history lesson, as Jason Holder just talked about to me, I'm honored to have been appointed as Chief of Police with 16 days remaining in the calendar year following the retirement of Chief Brian Schur. I'm grateful for the trust placed in me by the community, city leadership, and our department members. It is a privilege to work every day with our civilian staff, our officers, as well as the other dedicated professionals across our city government landscape. This year brought important transitions, technological improvements, and organizational growth. We focused on strengthening our structure, improving service delivery, and ensuring responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources. We did many of the tasks and accomplishments while being short-staffed. The strength of our department is in our people. They're a professional, dedicated, and engaging group dedicated to the mission of our department. They work in partnership with each other and the community to protect our citizens and visitors, as well as enhance the quality of life in Indianola by their actions. On the tech side in 2025, IPD is in the middle of a countywide CAD software conversion for both records management systems as well as our mobile data terminals. This countywide initiative has been a massive undertaking, and our staff is doing a remarkable job. The other major initiative we participated in was the CPSM staffing study, which you guys just heard about. That in-depth study looked at all facets of operations, staffing, resource allocation, equipment, training, customer service, partnerships, and more. We've already implemented stuff from that study that we just talked about. The last thing I want to talk about on this slide, the standard for IPD is the standard. I ask our officers to do three things: know your job, do your job, and do it professionally every day. Whoop, wrong way. Okay, the Indianola Police Department operates under a structured chain of command led by the chief, supported by command staff, patrol supervisors, detectives, and SROs. This organizational structure allows us to maintain efficient daily operations while supporting patrol investigations, school safety, administration, and community engagement. Which brings me to this slide. It's a little bit more detailed, but our greatest asset is our people. The faces on this slide, they're so much more than the thumbnails up there. This report overall will recognize the efforts of the people on this page, our sworn officers, our civilian employees, supervisors, detectives, and school resource officers who make up our department. Each employee contributes directly to public safety and the quality of life in our community. We are proud of their integrity and professionalism and dedication. So it brings me to our investigation section. In fall of 2025, after I moved to interim chief of police, Lieutenant Rick Largess assumed the command of the investigations division. This division includes 2 detectives assigned to general crimes and 1 to narcotics enforcement. That narcotics enforcement detective is assigned to the Warren County Drug Task Force. In 2025, detectives investigated 230 general crime cases and 20 internet crimes against children cases. Those investigations often involve search warrants, subpoenas, preservation requests, and detailed follow-up work that requires time and expertise. In addition, they handle all evidence storage, documentation, as well as court-ordered destruction of evidence. There's additional training that these detectives do to conduct these high-level investigations. Our patrol division. Patrol division is the most important and visible component of any police department. And right now it consists of 13 officers. Patrol officers respond to calls for service. They enforce traffic laws, investigate incidents, and they proactively work to prevent crime. We operate 3 patrol shifts. At that time in 2025, I'm going to demote him. Ty Sparks was a sergeant, John Schumacher, and Devin Thomas. In 2025, our officers handled 13,360 total calls for service. That number will look different next year. OWI enforcement remained a priority in 2025, with officers making 85 OWI-related arrests. I often tell people that one traffic stop impacts more than just one driver. For every single driver that drives by an active traffic stop, they are making sure they're buckled up, that they're slowing down, that they're stopping completely at traffic lights and intersections, using their turn signals, and very importantly, hopefully putting their electronic devices down. One stop impacts 200 to 300 vehicles if it's done on Highway 65 and 9 or Highway 92. So our patrol officers are the backbone of the department, and it is where the rubber meets the road. Later in this presentation, I will put up some statistics and we can talk more about patrol. So training remains essential to professionalism and readiness. In every professional organization, training, it has to happen. In 2025, Indianola officers completed 2,306 hours of training, averaging approximately 115 hours per officer, well above Iowa's minimum standards, which is 12 hours. Training topics included firearms quals, defensive tactics, baton use, OC spray, active threat response. We're very fortunate here. We have several officers who are state certified instructors in their disciplines. One area that we are looking to improve upon in 2026 and beyond is leadership training, as our focus really has been more job and discipline specific. So we look to improve on that. So our K-9 program, K-9 Kilo and Officer Trey Nixon continue to be a highly effective team. In 2025, the K-9 team contributed to numerous arrests, narcotic seizures, firearm recoveries, and traffic stop deployments. Kilo is dual certified in patrol and narcotics detection through both the DLE, which is Dogs for Law Enforcement, and the USPCA, United States Police K-9 Association. As you can see, they stayed busy in 2025. 58 criminal charges arose out of their work, and we seized firearms, 5 of them as a result, making our streets safer. Officer Nixon and K-9 Kilo spend countless hours continually honing their craft together, and they have formed an unbreakable bond. If you've ever seen a bite demonstration, you'll see that Kilo means business, and there's a picture up on the slide right now. Kilo is an invaluable asset to our community and our department, and for some reason, he remains the most popular member of our department.
My girls love him.
He's the best boy. So he can go from being a hard worker to a lovable pup. So it's not hard to figure out why he's so loved.
I witnessed one of the traffic stop deployments.
So he does a great job.
He did.
And a lot of kudos to Officer Nixon, who spends a lot of time, even when he's on duty, they'll go out to Pickard or they'll go out to a different park and they'll just train while he's on duty. So it's really fun to see how Kilo has progressed in the 3 years that he's been on the road for us. All right, that takes me to school resource officers. So our partnership with the Indianola Community School District remains strong through our school resource officer program. We are grateful to Superintendent Tara Paul and the entire district staff for embracing the SRO program as much as we do. They are very invested in it, and I can't thank them enough. Officer Jay Hackett serves at the high school, while Officer Ross Marshall serves at the middle school and teaches the DARE program to 5th grade students in all 4 Indianola elementary buildings. Lieutenant Largest took over supervision of the SRO program upon my appointment to Chief of Police, because I thought I could try to keep doing that, and I didn't have time. But I really love it, and the SRO program near and dear to my heart. So in 2025, our SROs handled 673 calls for service, with only 24 resulting in criminal charges. One of the SRO program goals is to mitigate entry into the criminal justice system wherever possible. We're in a partnership with the Warren County Attorney's Office with creation of a juvenile diversion program. This diversion program is referral-based and targets the root causes of juvenile crime, including family dynamics. This program has already been utilized and has shown great success. Prior to the implementation of the program, I attended a Board of Supervisors meeting to advocate for additional funding for this program. I want to give a special shout out to Warren County Attorney Doug Eichholz and his staff for the successful implementation of the diversion program here in Warren County. It certainly has the potential to be a model program for other counties, and we are using it already, and we are seeing a lot of results from that. Most issues at school were resolved informally through communication and collaboration, but our SROs do so much more than and that stuff's not covered in a calls for service. The mentoring of youth, staff, administration in the district, along with the visible deterrent for bad actors, remains a value that no one can appraise. We teach the DARE curriculum to all fifth grade students prior to entering the middle school. And we all know middle school years are hard years, right? We don't even have to be there to remember that. So the value in that curriculum is that it arms students with the new challenges they will face. Plus, at the end of the day, Jay and Ross have awesome prom pictures.
I just want to say, I spent a few hours out at the high school with Jay, and Ross was there for a little bit, but I was just amazed at how integrated Jay was with the high school and how well he knew all of the kids. But I'm not gonna say how long ago I graduated. But he stood in the hallway and the kids passed by so orderly and went on their way, and he knew which kids might stray and not go where they were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said something to them, they knew that they needed to go and make their way wherever. And there was one kid that didn't want to go. He said a few words to him, and he sent him on his way.
Yep.
He knows their home life, and he knows how to interact with them. He just is. It's like family out there.
Yeah, they're committed to what they do. I think I saw the cheerleaders at a football game had a sign that said, "Our SROs are better than yours." So
Yeah.
I think that
Well, and
when you can get teenagers to write that on a cardboard piece of paper, I think that says a lot about your SRO staff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and he was also working with the administration to figure out coverage for the next day on different things, so.
They do a lot of different roles out there.
Yes.
So we certainly appreciate it, and that, the value of the SRO program becomes that it frees up our patrol staff, because if it wasn't for our SROs, we might be spending some of that patrol time in the buildings doing some of those things. So it's just an invaluable program, and we're so grateful to the school district and their support of our program. So I'm going to move on to our community service officer. Our community service officer position continues to provide tremendous value. This role handles animal calls, parking complaints, vehicle unlocks, fingerprinting, code enforcement, and many other duties. This is a joint position with community and economic development. Our CSO is also a certified car seat installer. In 2025, CSO Kevin Michaels responded to 598 calls for service. In next year's annual report, you'll see that the CSO position will expand further based on CPSM recommendations. So that brings me to our clerical division. Our civilian clerical employees are the backbone of the administrative operations. They are often the first point of contact for the public, and they ensure reports, records, evidence, submissions, and legal paperwork are completed accurately and on time. They are responsible for transmission of all applicable reports to the county attorney, to the juvenile court, the Warren County Clerk of Court, and the state of Iowa. They also maintain our compliance at the federal level as well. At the end of 2025, we had 5 civilian clerks along with an office manager. As we approach fiscal year 27, this division will look different, with just 2 records clerks and an office manager budgeted for in the FY27 budget. So our special response team. The special response team is a regional partnership for tactical intervention involving the Indianola Police Department, the Warren County Sheriff's Office, and the Carlisle Police Department. IPD currently has 5 members on the SRT, and it is commanded by Lieutenant Largess, who is a subject matter expert in all things tactical. It is a branch of the Warren County Drug Task Force, and the Warren County Attorney's Office funds the equipment for the SRT. I want to say thank you to the Warren County Attorney's Office and County Attorney Doug Eichholz and the staff for their commitment to the SRT, as well as the Drug Task Force in Warren County. When you talk about shared services models, I think we have an excellent thing going on here. This team, the SRT, handles high-risk warrants, barricaded subjects, active violence incidents, and other specialized operations. In 2025, the team trained on 18 separate days, and each officer received approximately 120 hours of training. The Special Response Team is an excellent example of shared services between agencies. The SRT also did community policing events such as the Miracle League in Des Moines. The officers and deputies who make up this team train for tough scenarios, and we're fortunate to be able to have them also be able to translate that to normal police functions. By that I mean they come in and SRT guys will share with the tactical training that they do at SRT with guys on patrol. So it's basically a force multiplier. It allows them to, you know, train the trainer, if you will. So we're really appreciative of that, and there's just a lot that goes into it. Along with tactics, we also have participation in the Metro Star, which as part of our 28E agreement with the Metro Advisory Council, or the MAC, we have one officer assigned to the Metro Star, which is Special Tactics and Response Team. The STAR team operates in Des Moines, but their services are available to the city of Indianola. This includes tactical operations, weapons of mass destruction, EOD, bomb squad, K-9 support, crisis negotiation members, as well as training. We pay $14,000 annually, but it serves as an insurance policy if we need specialized services that we can't grow locally here. Officer Michael Chia is our officer assigned to STAR. He trains monthly and is generally on call for 1 week a month. So thank you to Des Moines Police Department for providing us some photos of STAR training. They graciously allowed us to use them in our annual report. Moving along to our UAS program, our Unmanned Aircraft System program continues to expand. The department currently operates 4 drones used for searches, tactical support, and scene documentation. And we actually flew the drone this morning in support of a county operation. In 2025, our 7 FAA Part 107 certified pilots conducted 22 real-world missions and logged 845 minutes of flight time. In 2025, we received a grant from Warren County Philanthropic Partnership for 2 indoor drones. These indoor drones have pushed our aerial capacity to new heights, plus they're just fun to fly. So thank you to Warren County Philanthropic Partnership for your generous support of our UAS program through grant funding. And right now, our UAS team is actually working on obtaining a beyond visual line of sight waiver from the FAA to extend our aerial capabilities during high-risk events. Let's talk employee recognition for a minute when we talk about our people. And so one of the things that we strive to do here is recognize our employees. And we do that by recognizing employees who exceed expectations through our internal letter of commendation program. This program is notable as it allows nominations from supervisors, fellow officers, clerical staff, and coworkers. Taking the time to celebrate the accomplishments of our officers and staff is vital to employee morale, as well as showing the community the good work happening here at IPD. Officers from IPD, as well as Carlisle PD, the Warren County Sheriff's Office, and one City of Indianola internal services employee were recognized with a letter of commendation in 2025. So always the fun part of the job, and then you get to pose for a lot of pictures too, which is great. So well-deserved recognition for all of those staff members. All right, so we're gonna get into statistics. So this is kind of where it gets a little murky, so I'm not gonna try to lose people here, but statistics are definitely a part of the law enforcement story. Traffic enforcement in 2025 declined about 9.1% due to patrol staffing shortages. But despite that, our OWI enforcement remained strong at 85 arrests. Crimes such as robbery, burglary, assault, criminal mischief, and trespass decreased. So our overall calls for service rose slightly to 13,360 calls for service. During the CPSM staffing study, they did note that many of our functions that our patrol officers are doing are not documented. These include the follow-up calls, all the things that we talked about earlier, the actual writing of reports, search warrants, preservation letters, et cetera, et cetera. We are working on that internally, so our actual numbers are going to look different in 2026. You'll see a large increase on this slide in theft and arrest cases. So most of this increase resulted from a change in reporting procedures from a large retailer in our city. That inflated our numbers in this area, but even with that, because of the increased reports, our officers and detectives have had to spend extra time reviewing surveillance videos, contacting suspects, filing reports and charges. So that increase in theft cases is noteworthy because it takes officers off the street as well as detectives off cases and makes them not as visible. Outside of the theft report numbers, we maintained a similar track to 2024 in most other categories. This track would have included arrests as well, but because of the high number of theft cases, our arrests kind of shot up quite a bit, but most of that was due to the high number of theft cases.
Has that trend continued into 2026?
I would have to defer over to Lieutenant Sparks. I'm not really, I haven't been keeping track of that. I've had a couple other things to do, but I can get back to you with that. I don't know the answer to that right now.
Thank you.
So I know we're still getting them. So accidents, our accident report numbers stayed in line with what we've experienced since 2023. Nothing significant there. Our more serious crimes, such as assault, sexual abuse, domestic disturbances, and robbery, stayed in line except for domestic cases, which actually dropped noticeably, which is always good. Our SRO calls for service were nearly identical from 2024, although as stated earlier, there's so much more that they're doing that's not logged on the calls for service number. Our parking enforcement numbers decreased slightly, and the CSO numbers in 2025 was just up over the 2024 numbers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but the big one is obviously the detectives cases in 2025, but a lot of those were taking some of those large retailer theft cases. But they are detective cases, so again, it is an inflation of the numbers, but it is, again, it does take the time and the effort to work those cases and close them out. So on this slide, we have some miscellaneous statistics for our drone deployments, canine responses, flock hits, and DRE cases. So again, we kind of try to keep track of everything, and there's a lot to go through in there. But with the department operating short-staffed the entire year in 2025, the number of calls, arrests, incidents, parking tickets, traffic citations, warnings, all indicate that our officers continue to do their job to the best of their ability and with the resources that we do have. So community outreach, community policing remains a cornerstone of our mission. Through the IPD Community Outreach Partnership, we provide holiday meals, veteran support breakfasts, and our annual Elves in Blue Christmas shopping event. We spend a lot of time coordinating these efforts. I want to give a big shout out to both of our SROs, Jay Hackett and Ross Marshall. They spend a lot of the time planning for these events and working with the Indianola Community School District staff to identify families that can benefit from these outreach events. So big shout out to those guys. We also want to thank members of our community for their support of our nonprofit IPD COP program, as well as Walmart, City State Bank, who give generously to help fund specifically the Elves in Blue event, which is our biggest event of the year. That event is also our most attended and enjoyable event of the year, as many of our IPD family members get to come help wrap presents and contribute and volunteer their time. Also, my excellent present wrapping skills are on full display during that event, and even some of the wives are a little jealous of my skills, and they've asked me to stop over and wrap presents. So
I see Spark shaking his head. I don't know.
Side hustle.
Legend is own mind.
that's right. So I want to talk really quick about our policing philosophy here at IPD. It's community focused. At the direction and with the support from city leadership, as well as the police administration team, our officers are encouraged to go direct with the community, help identify problems, and collaborate on solutions. Officers don't have to ask for permission to attend community events, to be visible, or be present in our community. It's intentional and it's by design. Officers that are out and seen are the ones that make a difference. We don't do that if we're not visible. And so we encourage our officers at all times to be out in the community, be visible. I want them stopping at basketball games, football games, chamber events on the square. Anything going on in town, we tell our officers, hey, turn your radio up, get out of the car, go out, interact with our community, be visible, be present, make a difference in your community. Our goal is that all our officers be proactive and engaged every shift. Plus, as the slide shows, we have some cool patches, which always spark conversations out in public, which is exactly why we have them. So, pick your favorite out of that. So, and then as far as personnel changes in 2025, we had the retirements of Chief Brian Schur and Lieutenant Justin Keller, as well as Officer Drew Stevers' departure to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office. Detective John Schumacher was promoted to Patrol Sergeant, and I was appointed Chief of Police. Our captain's position remains vacant for the time being. At the close of the year, we were actively conducting a hiring process to strengthen staffing, and we were actually anticipating hiring one officer, which we did. Recruiting new officers continues to be a challenge and will remain so as we roll through 2026. So I want to take this moment to say thank you for reviewing the annual report with me. We remain committed to protecting our community, serving with integrity, and continually improving as an organization. We appreciate the continued trust and support of the residents of Indianola, and it is our privilege to be in the law enforcement profession. So I'm prepared to answer any questions council may have at this time.
I don't have a question. I just had a comment that one of the numbers that stood out to me, Chief, was the calls for service, the 13,000. I mean, it averaged out to like 37 calls a day. And you're saying it's light because, they're not recording and everything. So it's pretty impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Amen.
That was my biggest shock in my ride along.
I do have a question. Then, not that long ago, the Indianola did do attempted murder on me.
I think we can address that after the meeting if you want to talk about it.
We can discuss your concerns at a later time.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, you answered my question, through email, and so I also just wanted to say publicly too, I just really like the look and feel of the report too. So, do reporting, so I know how much time that can take. So, appreciate that too, so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for all the time that you took to put this together and keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for keeping our streets safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, so that moves us to the consideration of the appointment of Thomas Selgrade II to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term beginning January 1st, 2026 and ending July 1st, 2031.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Delby?
Aye.
Sorry. Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. I gotta say, I've used Mr. Selgrade before, and he's done a wonderful job, and he'll be a really good addition to the Planning and Zoning Committee. That moves us to the mayor's report. I guess that is me.
No pressure.
No pressure. So Jackie already hooked me up for most of it, so I'm okay. As Melissa had already talked about, the Indianola Main Street Food Truck event is June 5th. The Chamber has another concert on the square on June 12th.
Keep in mind the road closures that are planned for these events, check our websites and social media for more details. The Indianola outdoor pool opened up on Saturday. I drove by on Sunday and saw a pretty good crowd out there. The next coffee with the mayor is June 3rd at 9 a.m. at Mishmash. Movies in the park, there's one on June 5th. And the Mayor's Youth Council Bike Scooter Fest update is June 6th at Simpson's Hillman Hall parking lot from 10 to noon. There is yoga in the park on Saturday mornings now through September at Buxton Park. Wanted to give a shout out to the Simpson softball ladies that went 2-2 in the Division III World Series and lost in the semifinals. That was quite a run by Simpson. June 2nd, tomorrow, Lighthouse Community Center will host their free community meal for anyone who wants to go out and enjoy that. And then on June 3rd and June 5th, the reopening of the National Balloon Museum. So on June 3rd, the time is from noon till 3, and on June 5th from 9 until noon. And this coming Saturday, we also have the Downtown Farmers Market from 8 until noon.
And good luck to our boys tonight, right?
I was just gonna add,
Yeah.
They're playing.
if we're not exciting enough, you can catch the second half of the soccer game.
Is it streamed?
I probably,
I bet it is.
with it being here,
DQ will be packed around.
Oh, I'm sure.
Heads up, all the community members.
Okay, so that puts us to agenda item 8A, old business, the public hearing regarding the rezoning application for the Kentucky Ridge Commercial Plat 1. We've canceled that public hearing just due to planning and zoning not having a quorum at the last meeting. So that'll be rescheduled for a later date. That moves us to the resolution approving an amendment to the board and commissions policy for the city of Indianola. Jackie, are you taking that one or?
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep. As we talked about last time we met, the current process right now is just the vacancies are listed on our website, then we get an application whenever someone wants to apply for one, and then it comes forward to council to approve. In the new one, we've created more of a streamlined process from the time that we have a vacancy to the time that they're appointed. Current members will be notified that their term would expire about 5 months out, and then we can consider their reappointment at that time. And then the public communications would be issued about 4 months before the terms expire to announce upcoming vacancies. And then applications would be accepted 3 to 4 months before the term expired. And then the applications would be reviewed, submitted to the board, sent to the city council, and interviews held with the applicants about 2 months before their term expires. And then the boards recommend the appointments and their feedback is shared with the council. And then no sooner than 45 days prior to the term, the appointments would be made by the mayor and council. The top applicant for each board will be placed on the agenda for the second meeting in May, and council has the final authority of all appointments regardless of the board's recommendations. And then orientation would be held, and then they can start their terms. And if we had any vacancies during the term, it would follow the same step. This policy will allow the board chairs and staff liaisons to determine if current members wanting to be reappointed are in good standing with the board, and can allow them to determine which applicants will best serve the needs of the board. You guys provided follow-up at our meeting on May 18th. Those have been incorporated in there where we ensure that the council sees all applications for boards and commissions openings. The interview team will rank the top 3 applicants and justify their choices, and that will be shared with the council. And the top applicant for each vacancy will be placed on the agenda, but council has final authority over all appointments.
Appreciate that, Jackie. Thank you for that. I know it's been, the appointments have been a little clunky in the last several years, so hopefully this strengthens the process up a little bit. Does anyone have any questions for Jackie?
No questions, just thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
With that being said then, can I get a motion to approve the resolution approving the amendment?
So move.
Second.
Jackie, would call the roll, please?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Sones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Motion passes.
That moves us to the city manager's report. So Jake, you're on.
Yeah, just a few items tonight. Should take me just about as long as Rob to do his annual report, so be out here about 9, I would imagine. Want to start off by.
Now you know how Rodney Dangerfield felt.
No respect.
I want to recognize Police Officer Chris Marsh, who retired last Friday after nearly 34 years of dedicated service. That made him the longest tenured officer in IPD history, so huge congratulations to him. Thank you, Officer Marsh, for your outstanding service to our community. McVeigh Trail repair, a portion of the McVeigh Trail between North 9th Street and North 15th Street will be closed starting on June 5th to begin a trail repair. There are social media posts that were made last week. Signage has been posted on site at the closure, and the city's trails website does have a notification banner across the top letting folks know that repair will be ongoing over the next few weeks. Library Summer Bash, just want to thank our exceptional library staff for organizing the Library Summer Bash event. It was a great time to see all of our folks in the community coming together at the library. And lastly, recognizing our city staff and community partners who hosted a visit with U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner, to showcase the ongoing downtown revitalization efforts and discuss how Main Street initiatives, housing investment, and redevelopment projects are supporting Indianola's long-term growth. The visit highlighted Indianola's recent Main Street Iowa designation and reinforced the community's momentum in attracting investment, improving downtown properties, and strengthening quality of life. That visit did occur last Friday, and our very own Bryce Johnson was there on the tour.
Thank you, Jake. So we'll move to discussion and direction regarding a special meeting for end-of-year claims. Jackie, is this also you?
It is, yep. Every year we have a meeting at the end of June to get all of the end of the year claims approved and submitted before July 1st, the new fiscal year starts. So staff has proposed June 25th or 29th, although we are flexible with any of those last few days in June. We can do morning, we can do a lunchtime, we can do in the evenings, whatever works best for the majority of the council members.
What was those dates again? I'm sorry.
We're proposing Thursday, June 25th or Monday, June 29th, but like I said, completely flexible on that, so. Usually less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. I'm on my annual fishing trip with the kids on the 25th, but if it's at night like last year, because I was on that last year,
Right.
I can dial in again. So that's fine with me, or the 29th is fine too. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I'd call in on the
You
29th.
going on both of them, or just
No,
12?
I'll be back for the
Okay.
29th, but I was just gonna say I'd call in so if people knew that, so they weren't like pretty busy.
What time are we thinking? You said
Anytime,
anytime?
we can do
Okay.
6, if you guys wanna do a noon over Zoom or Teams, we can.
I'm good with any of it.
I'm good with either one.
Would want to, with respect to some of your calendars, know what they can get like with work and whatnot, do it just preceding the council meeting on the 29th?
We don't have one.
We don't have one on the 29th, I guess.
You may be here, but
Yeah, you can come.
Wow, I
That's
just,
fine
I don't know how
with me,
that got there,
so-
I'm sitting there. Well, some of us are dedicated, but you. Yeah, I don't care, they're all good for me.
I'm good. I can do anything.
yeah, I'm fine with either, Jackie.
Better for
I
you
think
guys?
if we can.
No, I truly.
That far out, work I can,
Yeah,
is no big deal.
it's your guys' call.
Is there a time that works best for you?
I can call in or I can show up either. Why don't we just do the 25th? Does that work for everyone?
I'm good with that.
6 PM? Is that what you
Do
want
it,
to do?
even, so you can call in.
I can call in at any point.
the boat.
I can call from a shore or I
Okay.
can call from a house.
Would
So
you prefer to do it earlier so you don't have to stay till 6? I mean, that's,
Whatever, yeah.
if it's noon, I'll just be eating lunch. So I mean, I'd call
I
in.
can call in at noon, absolutely.
We'll do noon on the 25th.
Yeah, let's do noon so that way you don't have to stay.
So you don't have to stay?
Yeah, I'm flexible, it's really okay. We'll do June 25th at noon.
Okay, that sounds good. So now we'll enter into a closed session. Skip one. Are we good? Oh, I did. Discussion and action regarding future agenda items. Does any council members have any future agenda items they would like to bring up?
We discussed earlier about having a joint meeting with the school board and the county. So I'd just like to bring that up as an agenda item. Getting that on the calendar.
I agree with that. Doesn't have to be like tomorrow, but.
No, I mean, whatever works. I'm sure it'll take a while to get that scheduled.
I'd be good with that.
I guess I've just asked the question of if we're gonna schedule a special meeting with the school board, what is the topic? Is it just to get together and chat, or is there a defined outcome that we want to achieve?
I think it's our, projected plan, like to include on potential plans. Just like what kind of came up today.
Could we talk about some of the development stuff that we have going on and where they're located? Hear what they would say for where they would like to see strategic growth, and if that aligns with where our strategic growth is. Cause it probably does, like our strategic growth probably meets what they're probably looking for, they just don't know it too. So maybe just, that, I guess.
Mainly just having kids in the school right now, just knowing that there's lots of talk around balancing elementaries. I think it'd be good to include them on that plan so they can plan accordingly.
And also projects that would affect the school, the flow of traffic around the schools. Although you might already talk to Tara about that in your meetings.
Yeah, I would kind of balance between policy and just operational situations.
If you already talked to her about that, then that's outside of there.
So future growth?
Yeah, that seems to be maybe the concern from them, was just future growth and where we're expecting to see it and where they want to see it, I guess, for lack of a better term, I don't know.
So they can plan for it.
Yeah.
If they don't agree, there's that transparency and.
So as we've talked about in the past, we need to vote on the future agenda items, right? So do we need to have a motion then? All right.
Make a motion to add that as a future agenda topic.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Sones?
Aye.
The motion passes. Now it takes us down to entering into a closed session.
May I request a quick break before we enter?
Yeah, so let's take a quick break. Anyone that needs to use the restroom?
You have to
do that.
enter into closed session, and then you can take your break.
Oh, okay, I thought we did that
I'll keep my
afterwards.
word over here, Ron. I'm not making it over.
All right, so I'll read it out here. We're gonna enter into closed session in accordance with the Iowa Code Section 21.5.1J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
So
I have a first, I have a second.
Second.
Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Sones?
Aye.
Take a quick 5-minute recess.
Should have been a motion contingent on the 5-minute recess.
So moved.